Be Frankie.
Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix.
Yo, what's good? It's your boy BDELL. If you're new to the channel, hit that like button, hit that share button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell. But today I'm going to be breaking down the esoteric knowledge of the political apparatus that's applied to the inauguration and the Trump administration in the future years to come. Because all this is connected to the sustainable development goals and the geopolitical and societal economic reset, right? And it's also connected to the Global Risk Foundation. So get your notes out for this one because there's a lot of esoteric information that I'm going to be breaking down. It's applied to, Freemasonic codexes and a lot of symbolism by way of colorology. We're finna break it down today. So screenshot a lot of these pictures that I'm going to be showing you guys, a lot of the visual aids that's basically going to be demonstrating and giving you the clarification that you need to understand everything intuitively as we get through this Great Awakening process, right? So, as I was telling you guys before, that Donald Trump is basically playing both sides. So, as you can see at his inauguration, he was basically wearing a checkered red and blue tie. Now, symbolism by way of colorology lets you know who they are. So, that basically demonstrates the illusion of the color purple, because purple denotes the fact that he's basically connected to the York Rite of the degrees of the Council of Sim, where he's a super excellent master, because a super excellent master is connected to the Council of Sim. And when you understand ancient Proto-Semitic language, the E and the A are basically interchangeable. So the Council of Sim is the Council of Sam, and the Council of Sam is Samael in the Talmud text, who was equated to El, which is God. And when you go to the H1408 Strong Concordance, God is equated to Gad, which is Gandriel in the book of Enoch, which is another nomenclature title for Satan. So he's basically connected to the Council of Satan, because symbolism is going to be their downfall, right? So he's basically playing both sides. He's part of, he's part of the swamp, basically, because he can't drain the swamp. He can't drain himself. So by way of symbolism and colorology, they let you know who they are, right? Because it's connected to the Mark Master Masons. It's connected to the Royal Ark. It's connected to the Order of the Red Cross, the Order of Malta, and the Knights of Templars, right? So his son is basically a Master Mason, and his vice president is basically a Royal Ark. That's what the symbolism is basically demonstrating. He's connected to the royal bloodline of the Council of Sin, which is the Council of Satan, right? Now, Trump's inauguration was basically moved inside because, like I said, they try to blame it on the weather. But like I said, it's one of those things where you got to get through the semantics and the tricknology, because I remember Obama's inauguration and it was cold as hell outside, and they still had his inauguration outside. So the reason they put it inside is because it was basically demonstrating a Roman, Etruscan, Luciferian ritual, right? Because like I said, what is the odds of Donald Trump swearing below the apophis and washing inside the rotunda, which is the belly of Isis, which is basically a deification process, because rotunda is also where 33 degrees attempt to resurrect the seed of Osiris. So this is also connected to the Super Bowl, like Sister Myra was talking about, because this is Super Bowl 59. 9 plus 5 equals 14. So that was the 14th piece in the codex of everything that's acclimated to this incantation and this ritual that basically took place at Donald Trump's inauguration, which is connected to the canopy of Apophis at Washington. Now, also, you looking at the symbolism right here as well. When you see Elon Musk doing the Roman salute, because like I said, this is a Etruscan Roman occupational Luciferian incantation that they was basically propagating all throughout this inauguration, right? So pay attention to the signs and symbols because they're basically letting you know who they are, right? So also looking at the shout out to Donut. He found this, and it's basically giving the veneration of the horn god, which is basically Lucifer, the triple goddess. So this is all esoterically connected to the planetary alignments when you're talking about the esoteric dance of Saturn and Venus, right? So the symbolism by way of the inauguration was basically applied to the celestial alignment that took place the day before TikTok shut down, right? So also, like I said, pay attention to the colors because the colors play a big role in everything that I'm basically talking about as we get through the presentation because it's applied to the Global Risk Foundation that demonstrates many different things to come in the future by way of the colorism, right? So you stick around for the video because it's going to give you the esoteric keys that you need to understand how they show their signs and symbols by way of colorism. So also look at the Freemasonic hand gesture that he's basically doing right here. I forgot his name at the inauguration. Now, like I said, pay attention to the signs, pay attention to the colorism. So you got the green right here, which is basically a signification of a threat, an emergency threat for climate change. And I forgot what this was basically in alignment with the color red, but we're going to get through the presentation. I'm going to break it all down to you guys. Now, also, this is also applied to the Freemasonic Codex. So when you're talking about the Eastern Stars, because the woman wearing green, she was basically installed in the Sovereign Master Order, right? So that, which is also connected to the Master Tyri of the Royal Ark Marina. So like I said, this is all connected. This is all Freemasonic symbolism. And then you got Marina Trump. She was wearing the Juliet flag, which is basically the personification on fire kept clear, right? This is all symbolism that basically took place, right? This is all esoteric symbolism. You got to understand a language in order to understand what's going on intuitively. Now, we're going to get into the demonstration and the blueprint behind the Juliet flag or the J flag, which is a nautical signal flag that means I am on fire and have dangerous cargo. Keep clear. So this is basically applied to an international code of conducts, which is basically applied to the Roman occupational government of maritime law. So that's why Donald Trump, he's showing you by way of symbolism with the two pillars, Jack and Boaz, York Rite, Scottish Rite, which is the pillars of the tuning forks that's connected to the space-time continuum when you're talking about these celestial alignments. And he's also propagating the maritime laws of banking, meaning that we're going to eventually, you're going to have an economic crash, because the last time that we had an economic crash and a Great Depression was in 1929, and that was also in the year of the snake, right? And now you fast forward to 2025, we're in the year of the snake, and now look at the symbolism that basically works in tandem with an economic crash. So like I said, this is all connected to the geopolitical economic reset, right? So this is an international form of codex. It's a communication with all ships at sea. So this is basically going to be the reason why I said in the beginning points, we're going to see, it's going to be a time where people are going to be going up to the ATM. I had a vision about this the other day. I was talking to my girl about it. People was going up to the ATM machine with their cars and nobody couldn't get no money out, right? Because like I said, you're lost at sea. So now they're trying to revitalize the system with a new system under a crypto control system that has a cybernetic dictatorship. So this is where they're going to engineer the new economic infrastructure. Now, I also need you to understand something here when you're looking at her dress. Her dress is basically the symbolism for a snake. And then when you look at her hat, it's basically symbolizing Saturn. And you notice she didn't kiss him. And she's also a Taurus, which is also associated with Venus. right? So that is basically in alignment with the last video I put out a couple days ago, right? So you're looking at Saturn, and then her dress is showing you the symbolism of the snake because we in the snake year, right? So this is all connected to the Leave the World Behind movie, because when they got that esoteric message, it was showing you a snake, and it was talking about the dangers of the planet that's going to be taking place, right? And now we're in the year of the snake, so there's a lot of snake symbolism because the year of the snake will basically begin the day after they have the doomsday clock moved on January 28th. So on January 29th, the Chinese folklore teaches that the snakes bring upheaval, chaos, revolution, exposure of what was hidden, right? So that's what a revelation is, to reveal what was basically hidden. So other years of the snake in history include 1917, the United States entered World War One, and then you had the Russian Revolution in 1929. Like I said, you had the stock market crash and the Great Depression. And in 1941, you had Pearl Harbor, and the United States entered World War II. And then you had 1953, where you had the Korean War, and then you had the Cuban Revolution, 1965. You had the Vietnam War, Civil Rights Movement. And then, like I said, you got to pay attention to everything, because you got to understand the symbolism of numbers. Numbers are basically portals, right? Because it can basically denote the fact it could create a dynamic of time jumping. Because, like I said, 1965, it talks about civil rights. So it's not a coincidence that the inauguration fell on Martin Luther King's birthday, right? So that is basically a form of time travel. You can time travel by way of the duplication of numbers, right? Because it's basically a mirror flip. Just like when you're looking at a mirror is basically a dimension to a different reality. Numbers have the same dynamic when you basically line them up with different events. So when you have the inauguration, the same day as Martin Luther King's birthday, they took place. It's not a coincidence that also in 1965 of the Civil Rights Movement was also in the year of the snake. And now we're also in the year of the snake, right? So also in 1989, you had the end of the Cold War, right? And then in 2001, 9/11. And then you had, in 2013, you had the escalation of war in the Middle East. All this happened in the year of the snake, right? So this is why it's imperative to be very meticulous of the actions of Donald Trump, because like I said, he is not your savior. And I'm going to pull out all the damn receipts that's going to prove that he's not your savior. They've been showing you since the 1990s in these movies for who he really is. And I'm going to break it down to you. Now, this is all connected to the movie Carmen Sandiego, the cartoon. Now, in the cartoon, in one of the episodes, she stole the Ark of the Covenant, right? She basically, she was going around stealing neoclassical, transgressive art. She was stealing monolithic structures or whatever, and she stole the Ark of the Covenant, right? So the Ark of the Covenant, what does that have to do with Donald Trump? Because the Ark of the Covenant is basically showing you the demonstration of the cherubim that has a certain energy to it, because the cherubim is connected to the Roman occupational government of the Etruscans, who basically control your deep state shadow government that is applied to the Trump administration, right? So you got to understand the inception of history in order to understand what's going to be taking place in the future. Now, this is also applied to the movie V for Vendetta, right? Pay attention to the signs and symbols. Symbolism is going to be their downfall, right? Now, when you look at V for Vendetta, it's basically showing you the ancient Alpha symbol that is also the personification of the solar eclipse that took place last year, right? Which is basically the resurgence of the black sun when you're talking about Ophiuchus, right? So pay attention to Time magazine. So it's basically showing you the same symbolism of the Alpha symbol. You see the V right here, right? Which is also connected to the anarchy symbol, or the symbol of the Antichrist, right? Look it up. So look at the symbolism right here, right? Pay attention to the symbolism. Signs and symbols, that's what it's all about. Because it basically is an emulation of the V for Vendetta symbol that is also connected to the ancient Alpha symbol that when I was talking about all the solar eclipses, which was the the resurgence of the black sun when I put out this video, the great sign before the sun sign. I put this video out 11 months ago. So I'm basically in alignment with everything that I'm basically talking about. So when you're looking at this symbol, you're looking at that symbol right here on his tie that is applied to V for Vendetta, that is applied to Marina Trump, showing the symbolism by way of the hat, which is basically personification of Saturn when they was harvesting the energy of individuals when they was crashing out over the TikTok app, basically, right? So like I said, this is a ritual, a mass ritual in full spectrum, right? Now, I'm going to show you a video because it's going to demonstrate everything I'm basically talking about in this one video. So we're going to go to a video here. So remember, I was telling you, they not like us. They use one of us to propagate a certain ideology. They use one of us. So that's why it's imperative to understand that when you see people who look like us at these inaugurations, these are your sellouts. These are basically your boule members that is applied to, the political apparatus of everything that's connected to the United States government and things of that nature. So I'm gonna show you that this is an incantation that took place. Now, I can't be the only one that thought this whole little speech that he was doing at the end was kind of weird, because he was basically naming off cities that was basically applied to the deep underground military bunkers, basically, right? That's connected to the military industrial complex. So I'm gonna play this video, and then if you agree with me, put 999 in the chat.
Great nation, we believe that you will make this come true. So let freedom ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring from the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. Let freedom ring from the curvaceous hilltops of California. But God, we're asking you not only that. Let freedom ring from Stone Mountain, Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and every molehill in Mississippi, from every state, every city, every village, and every hamlet. And when we let freedom ring, we will be able to speed up that day where all of your children, black men and white men, Protestant and Catholic, Jew and Gentile.
See, I'm going to pay attention to the cities that he was basically naming off. He was naming off caverns, and he was naming off mountaintops that's connected to the deep underground military bunker systems of the military industrial complex, right? I'm going to play this again. Pay attention to everything they were saying, because remember in the TV show Lovecraft Country, right? Remember, they will basically use one of us to basically cast out incantations to open up portals to bring in these energies of chaos on the planet, right? So I wouldn't be surprised that he's basically in bloodline connection with the Etruscans, who are basically your so-called Black Romans, right? Who basically gave the edification to the beast on how to cultivate government. This is where you get the inception points of the Black nobility, right? Share this video if you like this information. I'm gonna play this video back and pay attention to the everything, all the cities he was naming off.
Great nation, we believe that you will make this come true. So let freedom ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring from the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. Let freedom ring from the curvaceous hilltops of California. But God, we're asking you not only that. Let freedom ring from Stone Mountain, Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and every molehill in Mississippi, from every state, every city, every village, and every hamlet. And when we let freedom ring, we will be able to speed up that day where all of your children, black men and white men, Protestant and Catholic, Jew and Gentile.
See, pay attention to the signs and symbols. Like I said, they not one of us. They are not one of us, right? So back to the presentation at hand. So pay attention to all the cities he was basically naming off, right? Because it's connected to the deep underground military bunker systems, the United States government underground facilities and tunnels, because there's a labyrinth underneath this planet, right? There's a labyrinth underneath the United States that connects all tunnel systems where they have a great majority of these cherubim or the 200 fallen angels or the Nephilim or these draconian entities and stuff, right? So that's also connected to the movie Leave the World Behind that me and KT, the Arch Degree, we made a video on Black Magic's channel, and we basically broke down everything. So also in a movie, remember they went underground, right? So this is all connected to the deep underground military bunker systems, because I showed you in the beginning of the video how it's connected to the year of the snake. And they showed this in the movie Leave the World Behind, right? And they was going underground in these underground tunnel systems. And the guy in the video, he was naming off tunnel systems, right? Pay attention to that. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, man. Hit the like button so we can beat the algorithm. So this is also connected to the movie Iron Sky, right? So it's showing you all these vortexes, all these places on the planet Earth, especially in the United States, where they had these underground bunker systems. I screenshotted this movie, this picture of this movie 3 days ago, way before the inauguration. So like I said, I'm in alignment with everything that's basically taking place. This is also connected, like Donald Trump, I think when he was signing the executive orders, he was basically talking about how we need another ice age to basically combat climate change. So we're on the verge of something here. So this is all connected, right? In some shape or form, because remember, he's always talking about a storm is coming. The storm is coming, right? Could this be the storm? Because they're talking about this is supposed to be a bad storm coming next week, right? So I'm gonna go back and play the video for a second, because this is also applied to him signing those executive orders within the first 24 hours of him being in office. Okay, where's this? Here we go. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, ladies and gentlemen. Get your notes out.
We have about 6 commutations in there where we're doing further research. Nice to see you again. So this is a big one. Anything you want to explain about this? We hope they get them. We hope they come out tonight, frankly. They're expecting it. Approximately 1,500 people. Six commutations.
Were there any cases?
I need you to understand something about executive orders. See, executive orders is basically connected to the demo system of democracy, because executive orders originally was tied to the executive branch that was controlled by the Democrats. So with him signing executive orders, he's basically bending the law in the form of a dictatorship, right? So that's why I said that, you know, he's not draining the swamp, because he's also a part of it.
You did not commute or part of people?
We're looking at different things, but the commutations would be the ones that we'll take a look, and maybe it'll stay that way, or it'll go to, you know, full pardon.
And the order does require the Bureau of Prisons to act immediately on receipt of the pardons and commutation orders. Sir, this is an
Why don't we get that down so they can get them going right now?
Yes, sir.
Is that okay?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
This is a proclamation guaranteeing the state's protection against invasion based on the current crisis at the southern border. It invokes various executive powers relating to the ongoing invasion at the southern border.
Mr. President, what makes you confident that those are not going to be blocked by the courts?
I don't think they will. I don't think they can be. They're very straight up. Why don't you take that and go over here? Could you get him over here, not on the side angle? Do you mind? Just go right over here with your friends. Okay?
Sir, this is an executive order realigning the United States refugee admission program to better align with American principles and American interests.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. This next executive order is about protecting America from foreign terrorists and other national security and public safety threats. Again, crisis at the border, but it goes beyond that and it implicates other executive powers as well.
Okay.
President Trump, if cartels are now going to be seen as foreign terror organizations, would you think about ordering U.S. Special Forces into Mexico to take them out?
Could happen. Stranger things have happened.
Mr. President,
And that was actually
sure that Maduro will accept Venezuelans?
Say it.
How will you make sure that Maduro will accept Venezuelans?
Well, we're going to see on Venezuela. We're looking at Venezuela very strongly. It's a country I know very well for a lot of reasons, and it's, boy, it was a great country 20 years ago, and now it's a mess, right?
Sir, can we expect ICE raids starting tomorrow in major cities?
What does that mean?
Can we expect ICE raids in major cities?
I don't want to say when, but it's going to happen. Has to happen, or we're not going to have a country left.
This is actually an executive order designating the cartels and other organizations to be foreign terrorist organizations.
That's a big one.
Yes, sir.
People have wanted to do this for years. So they are now designated as terrorist organizations, foreign.
See, this is why it's imperative to understand that Donald Trump is not your savior, right? You got to understand it from a esoteric codex of it, right? You got to understand these things. Donald Trump is not your savior, right? Because one thing you got to understand, a lot of people was like, well, you know, just because you don't agree with the Trump administration, are you for Biden and Kamala? I ain't for nobody. I don't follow no type of political apparatus. I don't follow that whole infrastructure, right? Because when you go to Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12, and you go to Job chapter 9, verse 24, the word be given to the hands of the wicked, and its wickedness in high places. What are those high places? That's government, right? So why would I put my faith inside government? Why would I put my faith of anything that's basically external, that's connected to the material plane, right? The spiritual plane is merging in with the physical plane that basically eradicates everything that's applied to government. So why would you put your trust in government, dummy? So that's why I said, like, a lot of people don't understand, you know, everything that's basically taking place intuitively, because this is all connected to Kabbalistic incantations. So it was very interesting that the book about Aleister Crowley called The Magician of the Golden Dawn, MAGA means magician, and Dawn means Don or Donald Trump, the Dawn of the Golden Age, which is why they're basically saying he was the king. So one thing you got to look at is the gematria aspect. When you look at the Vedic codex of it, Aleister Crowley, from the day that Donald Trump won presidency, is exactly 7,777 weeks and 7 days apart. And that is applied to the Kabbalistic traditions and writings of Aleister Crowley in his book called 777. Aleister Crowley also, he was born on 1947. So from 1947 to Donald Trump's inauguration on January 20th is exactly 77 years and 7 weeks apart. So like I said, they can time travel and time jump by way of the numbers. So Aleister Crowley is basically Donald Trump, right? That's how you got to look at this whole thing, right? Because this is all connected to Marina Trump, right? When you're looking at the color spectrum of it, this is another book by Aleister Crowley. So all this is connected. He came out with that book Moonchild. So look at something, right? Look at her color spectrum. Look at the symbolism, right? And I believe she has blonde hair. So the signs and symbols is right in your face, right? Get this book right here called Moonchild. I have the physical copy. Now, like I said, Donald Trump is the Don, the modern day king of Babylon, who is basically a personification of King Cyrus in the flesh. The golden dawn of the new age, becoming the Don in the media, was elaborate to Kabbalistic magic. And the Don, it means that he's basically the personification of the world ruler, which is why Elon Musk has been calling him the king, right? So the symbolism is there. You just got to pay attention to the signs. Also, when you look at the bottom right here, you can see him after the inauguration. They were basically demonstrating, I think it was the Last Supper, right? Because he's basically a Judas, right? So also, when you look at the economic publication here, many Trump supporters believe God has chosen him to rule. The Economist tries to find out why, right? Like I said, this is a form of deification, right? Because this is all connected to the Super Bowl. So the NFL playoffs 2025, and a lot of people have been saying that they think it's going to be the Chiefs and Commanders. So when you flip it around, Donald Trump is going to be the commander in chief, right? In Super Bowl 59, when Osiris gets the 14th piece. Hello? The symbolism is there, right? You got to pay attention to the signs and symbols because it's all connected to this video that I put out 6 months ago. Leviathan Prophecy, the Black Sun, Anunnaki, and Trump. Now, like I said, salute to Dr. York, free the master teacher, free Baba Yanun. So Leviathan as the beast that is the Antichrist, this is his book right here. And that guy right here looks just like Donald Trump, right? He looks like Donald Trump. That's what this is all about. They've been putting the signs and the symbols in your face for the longest. So before I get ahead of myself, I believe I have another video to show you guys. So, play this other video. This was also taking place at the inauguration.
Vance, Speaker Johnson, Senator Thune, Chief Justice Roberts, Justices of the United States Supreme Court, President Clinton, President Bush, President Obama, President Biden, Vice President Harris, and my fellow citizens. The golden age of America begins right now.
See, their golden age is a totalitarian regime that's based on the cybernetic dictatorship. That's their golden age. That ain't our golden age, right? So we don't need to be following what they following. Anybody who's telling you to follow government and trust in these politicians is an agent. Point blank, period. Right? Because you know better to be following, anything that's basically external, right? Because it's connected to the moon. And the moon is an artificial construct. So if the moon is fake, that means that all the shit around you is fake. So why would you worship anything outside of yourself? So anybody telling you and showing any type of veneration and they're propagating, the ideology of Donald Trump, agent. I need you to understand that. Now, this is all connected to the 10 kingdoms because it's a New World Order revelation, according to Revelation 17, verses 12 through 14. So it's all going to be a part of it. You say he want to get Venezuela because this is all connected to the Club of Rome, right? And he signed all those executive orders, like I told you, basically bending the law in a form of dictatorship to cultivate the New World Order. Then, you see Donald Trump here. That ain't him, but he's also doing, this is a New World Order the Council of Foreign Relations handshake, right? This is a Freemasonic handshake that represents one world order. He's a part of the swamp. And then you cannot negate that this movie came out in the 1990s, and it's called Devil's Advocate, where you had Keanu Reeves and Al Pacino. And this movie, in the movie, right, it was filmed on Donald Trump's penthouse on the 66th floor, right? This movie was. A lot of the movie was filmed in Donald Trump's penthouse on the 66th floor, right? Devil's Advocate. Pay attention to the signs and symbols. Then you also got to watch this movie right here. It's a blast, Mario Brothers. Because they showing you by way of the symbolism, this guy looks just like Donald Trump. I showed you guys this before. And you can see the draconian reptilians right here, right? Then it also shows you who he is right here by way of the tongue, right? Could Donald Trump be Pindar, right? And this is his physical form. It's showing you President Cooper. Notice it says president, and he is the last president according to these two publications that came out, and I'm going to show you at the end of the video, because a lot of people already know about it, but it's all esoterically connected, right? So they showing you a draconian reptilian that lives in the underground world where the Super Mario Brothers go, right? And he looks just like Donald Trump. So the symbolism is there. Pay attention to the signs. That's why it's imperative to watch these movies, because they're not getting these ideas from nowhere, right? Because I told you, the CIA has an office in Hollywood, and Hollywood has an office in the CIA. So they got to put the truth in the movies, but you can't look at it as in a form of entertainment, right? I got another video to show you guys. So we're going to go to the other video. Here we go.
Accountability to government, we will also reverse the overclassification of government documents, and in the coming days.
Hold on.
We are going to make public remaining records relating to the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, his brother Robert Kennedy, as well as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and other topics of great public interest. It's all going to be released, Uncle Sam.
Would you declassify the 9/11 files?
Yeah.
Would you declassify JFK files?
Yeah.
Would you,
I did a lot of it.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
Attorney General.
By the time the sun sets tomorrow evening, the invasion of our borders will have come to a halt, and all the illegal border trespassers will in some form or another be on their way back home. Big election win.
You got to be very critical and ask why. Why is he doing all this? He wants the savior complex. He wants to be venerated because he don't want you to think, he don't want people to know who he actually is. But if you understand, see, this is where, like I said, a lot of Christians or whatever, they fall for the semantics. They don't really believe in that Bible, because if they did, they would know that it's basically a blueprint that's basically in alignment that's taking place in real time, right? Ain't nothing as far as like the government gonna save you, right? Because if you understood the Bible intuitively, you would know that the Roman occupational government actually killed Jesus. So why are you showing any type of veneration to government, right? So that's why I said Donald Trump is playing both sides. He's basically, this is what they're doing. They doing it under a Hegelian dialectic principle. So all the black swans and the psychological operations, all that is coming from the Democrats. So Donald Trump is a Republican, so he's revitalizing the system by way of a false golden age to where he looks like a savior, as he's basically propagating this ideology of the restoration of the republic, right? Meaning that it's basically for the people. That's how he's going to get you. He's going to give you the money. He's going to give you all the incentives in order to live, you know, in abundance in this matrix. He's going to give you all the technology. But like I said, you gotta look at things with your spiritual eye.
And as of today, TikTok is back. So, you know, I did a little TikTok thing. We have a guy, TikTok Jack, he's a young kid, like 21 years old. And we hired this guy, and I went on TikTok. Can you believe what I'll do to win an election? And we went on TikTok, and Republicans have never won the young vote, the youth vote. Tomorrow at noon, the curtain closes on 4 long years of American decline, and we begin a brand new day of American strength and prosperity, dignity and pride. Bringing it all back. Once and for all, we're going to end the reign of a failed and corrupt political establishment in Washington, a failed administration. We're not going to take it anymore. We're going to stop the invasion of our borders. We're going to reclaim our wealth. We're going to unlock the liquid gold that's right under our feet. Liquid gold. We're going to bring back law.
Can we get the shotgun though? Yes, all right.
Hold on first.
We're going to restore patriotism to our schools, get radical left, woke ideologies the hell out of our military and out of our government. And we are going to make America great again. This is the greatest political movement in American history. And 75 days ago, we achieved the most epic political victory our country has ever seen. That's what they say. We won the popular vote for the first time of any Republican in many, many years. We swept all 7 swing states by big numbers. We won Pennsylvania, we won Georgia, we won North Carolina, we won Michigan, we won Wisconsin. We won Arizona, we won Nevada, we won them all by historic margins, and we won the great state of Florida by 13 points. Nobody's done that ever. And a record that will never be broken. All 50 states shifted toward the Republican Party, the first time that that's ever happened. All 50 states. We won the largest number of African-American voters in Republican Party history. We won more Hispanic American votes than any Republican has ever gotten before by a lot. And we won Latino men and women, and on top of that, youth, men, women, urban, suburban, rural, and people from everywhere in between are joining us in record numbers. We've never had anything like this. Too big to rig, that's what I used to say. Too big to rig. We made it too big.
Now, look, let's talk about the inauguration, only a few days away, but it's been moved indoors because of the cold. But do you really think that's the case, Brad, or do you think that this is more of a security risk to have the next president in such an open space?
Yeah, I'm speculating here to some extent, but I have a hard time believing that Trump would move it indoors simply because of the cold, when it means that so many of his supporters who traveled a far way and spent a lot of money to come won't be able to attend? I have a hard time imagining him doing that. I suspect that there may be some serious security concerns that are motivating this, but they don't want to say that. They don't want to encourage, deranged people who would disrupt our official government events.
It always makes us heighten our security efforts.
What's keeping you up at night right now?
The fact that there could be lone wolves that out there, copycats that are out there.
Even with official events indoors, D.C. police remain on high alert for violent protests outside the secured area.
A secure perimeter.
So pretty much nothing went on after, the inauguration took place. Nothing happened during it or whatever. But like I said, you've seen a lot of symbolism, a lot of Etruscan rituals that actually took place. So you got to get this book right here called Baron Trump's Adventure. This looks just like an emulation of Donald Trump's son. And this book came out in the 1800s. It was written by Ingersoll Lockwood. And he also wrote this book in the 1900s, The Last President. And it's also talking about Donald Trump. So now this is where we get into the esoteric colorology when you're talking about the global risk report of 2025, the 20th edition, that's connected to the World Economic Forum, which is an insight report. So this is applied to everything that took place in the inauguration by way of symbolism of the colors, right? So this is basically showing you everything that can basically take place in between now and 2030, right? Talks about natural resources, of shortages, adverse outcomes of AI technologies, cyber espionage and warfare, biodiversity of loss, economic collapse, ecosystem collapse. So screenshot this. This is on the World Economic Forum website. It talks about societal polarization, economic downturn, stagnation. Talks about a great majority of everything that's going to be taking place in the future, because they have to destabilize and neutralize us in order to get us to conform. So this is the table of contents. Is showing you world in 2025, the path to 2027, the geopolitical recession, supercharged economic tensions, technology, and polarization. And it goes the world in 2035, structural forces. It talks about a whole multitude of everything, right? So that's why, notice right here in the table of contents where my cursor is showing you the world in 2035, the point of no return, right? Now, this is where it gets crazy. Now, the number 7 ties back to Donald Trump, who is the modern day King Cyrus, the prophecy of the red heifer, 2 extreme important eclipses in 2027 and in 2034, 7 years apart. These eclipses occurred in August 2nd, 2027 and March 20th of 2034. So the year after that, right, is the point of no return of 2035, right? And Donald Trump will still be in office, by the way. That's if, something doesn't happen to him or whatever, if he doesn't die of old age or whatever. So notice, like I said, this is all applied by way of colorism. So notice when you're looking at the current global risk landscape, it's showing you all these colors that was basically applied to the inauguration. So when you're looking at the symbolism, when you see the color green, they're basically showing you extreme weather events to come, right? I'm going to show you. See the lady right here wearing the green? He's wearing the purple tie. She's wearing the red, right? So we're going to find out what the signification of red means when you're looking at the global landscape of the whole infrastructure, when you're talking about the afflictions that can take place on a planet. So she was wearing red, and the other woman was wearing green. So green is a representation of extreme weather events that's coming. I already showed you an emulation of the map that was talking about there's going to be a storm coming, a winter storm. Red is societal polarization, lack of economic opportunity, unemployment, erosion of human rights, civic rights. So, like I said, civic rights. This is connected to civil rights, which took place in 1965 in the year of the snake. Now we're in the year of the snake again in 2025. So some civil rights energy is going to be taking place. I don't know what's going to happen, but like I said, that was a time jump in itself because it's connected to Martin Luther King. So he had his inauguration on the same day as Martin Luther King's birthday, right? Goes into inequality. So don't be surprised if a lot of stuff starts happening to so-called black people when it comes to the police force, right? So like I said, decline in health, well-being, inequality. So you got to look at this. You got to look at the whole interconnections map and the global risk landscape that basically propagates the environmental risk and are basically connected to our urgent reality, right? So like I said, by way of symbolism, pay attention to the color. Talks about biodiversity, ecosystem collapse, critical change to Earth systems, natural resource shortages, pollution, right? The lady was wearing green. So the lady wearing green was basically a signification of everything that's going to be taking place in 2025. The lady wearing red is a signification of everything that's going to be happening in 2025, right? Donald Trump was wearing a purple tie. So the symbolism of the colors works in tandem with the agenda. That's when you get into the colorology, right? Red, green, he's wearing a purple tie. It's all connected to Freemasonry. Now, we're going to go back to the global risk landscape and the interconnections map. We finna talk about more stuff. And it goes into the structural forces, which is technological acceleration, climate change, demographic verification, and geostrategic shifts, right? When you're talking about a planetary shift, right? And a planetary shift is going to create a geopolitical economic reset, which is going to create a supercharged economy that's going to be based on artificial intelligence, right? Where you're going to have the crypto terrestrials running everything behind the scenes, right? So this is all connected. So you got to read that. Because like I said, colorology is connected to a form of universe duplication that is connected to limited matter duplication by way of the consciousness and the transfer of numbers, which creates a mirror flip that basically works in tandem with the same thing with the colors, right? So shout out to Blue Pill. He also came out, and also shout out to Truth Zone TV. You know, they was putting out a few things talking about everything with the inauguration. So Blue Pillar, you know what I'm saying? He posted this on his Instagram, and it's official. The sun's magnetic field has flipped. We have entered solar maximum because now we're in solar cycle 25, right? So then don't be surprised like if a lot of stuff is going to start happening, because as far as like the tectonic plates moving, which is basically the chakra points of planet Earth. So this is the global turning point of the great planetary reset from 2025 to 2027, right? That's what's taking place right now, because it also works in tandem with the doomsday clock that I put in my last transmission, because they're going to be doing this on January 28th. So be very critical and be mindful of everything that's going to be taking place on this day and the day before or after, right? So for those coming in, I'm going to give a brief synopsis about everything that I'm basically talking about. So Donald Trump, this whole inauguration, his whole administration is basically personification of the fact that it's a biblical prophecy and a prophetic divination of him being the final trumpet, right? So like I said, he's playing both sides, right? He is connected to the York Rite of the degrees of Freemasonry that is connected to the Council of Sim, because he's a super excellent master the Council of Sem, which is basically the Council of Sam, because when you study ancient Proto-Semitic language, the E and the A are basically interchangeable. So the Council of Sem is the Council of Sam. Sem is Samael, and Samael in the Talmud traditions is El, which is equated to God. And then when you go to the H1408 Strong Concordance, God is equated to Gad, which is Gandriel in the book of Enoch, which is a nomenclature title for Satan, right? So this is the Council of Satan by way of the colorology when you're looking at him wearing a purple tie that is comprised of a pattern of red and blue, right? So he's playing both sides. You can't drain the swamp if you're a part of the swamp because he's a white hat. Trump moves inauguration on the inside. They try to say it was because of the weather. It wasn't because of the weather. It was a Luciferian, Etruscan, Roman occupational event that actually took place, right? So says, what are the odds of Donald Trump swearing at the rotunda, which is basically the belly of Isis? Rotunda is also where the 33 degrees attempt to resurrect the seed of Osiris that's connected to the Super Bowl, 59th Super Bowl. 9 plus 5, 5 plus 9 equals 14, right? So the 14th piece of Osiris, which is a form of resurrection, or the resurrection of Ophiuchus, the 13th zodiac wheel, which is a personification of the black sun, that is also in connection with everything I'm basically talking about. Then you had symbolism, right? Luciferian symbolism. Look at the hand symbols, right? This is all connected to Maritimelaw, the eradication of it. This is all connected to leave the world behind, because I'm showing you right here, the dress is an emulation of a snake. And we're in the snake year of 2025, and the hat is a representation of Saturn, right? We talked about it, that Saturn energy, harvested energy, in my last video. Now we in the year of the snake. This is a part of the Leave the World Behind movie. In the year of the snake, screenshot this. All this took place in the year of the snake, right? Screenshot this. So something's going to happen, because like I said, we're at the apex of a seculum of a cycle. So this is going to be the fourth turning. When you have a fourth turning, you have a high, then you have an awakening, then you have an unraveling, then you have a crisis. The crisis is connected to the year of the snake. The snake is Ophiuchus. That's the Kundalini energy of the planet rising up that manipulates the timelines of humanoid events on planet Earth by way of solar cycle 25. Then you got the V for Vendetta symbolism of the movie. The V is an ancient elf symbol that looks just like Donald Trump's tie on the Time magazine. That is also an emulation of the great sign before the sun sign of all the solar eclipses, which was basically in alignment with the black sun, right? So when you're looking at this ancient elf symbol, you're looking at this on the tie, you're looking at this, the V for Vendetta, that is connected to Marina Trump when she was wearing the symbolism on the hat. So I'm not finna go too far. I got to go pick up my son from school. As I told you guys before, I got full custody of him. So, this is what I do, man. This is what I do. I make time to make these videos for you guys so you guys can understand the symbolism at hand, right? Because it is tough being a full-time dad, trying to balance out a relationship, trying to, balance out my social life and my work life, and give out, my transmissions and my edification in real time, right? Like I said, I'm a Libra, I'm a triple Libra, so it's good for me to balance out these energies, meaning that I'm meant to be doing this, right? So like I said, if you're new to this channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button so we can beat the algorithm. We are in that time right now. So whatever's going to be taking place, get your popcorn ready, because we in that time. Like I said, every time you're going to come to this channel, you're going to get this work. You're going to get this work every time. I'm going to show you the receipts that's going to be in alignment with esoteric knowledge, right? I'm going to show y'all everything that y'all need to know to prepare for with everything that's basically taking place on the planet. Like I said, Donald Trump is not your savior. He's playing both sides, right? This is all a part of the geopolitical economic reset, right? That's what this is all about, to create a globalized, it's a form of globalization, basically. That's what the Global Risk Foundation that was connected to the report of the World Economic Forum. That was basically demonstrating the one world ideology. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope y'all, took notes down, because this is a very important video, because like I said, this is it. We in that time right now. It's about to get crazy. You know what I'm saying? Because like I said, with Donald Trump giving out, the truth about, Martin Luther King's unaliving, JFK's unaliving, he's going to be putting out the full disclosure of extraterrestrial life. He's going to be basically eliminating the borders and stuff like that. He's going to get, the cartel up out of here. All this stuff is like very critical to look at, because it's going to cause chaos, right? Because like I said, when you have chaos, you have order, right? So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching this video. End of transmission.
10:14. We were put